President, please be seated. The court is now back in session. And before I give the floor to the co-prosecution, Greffier, please report on the Nuon Chea Defense Counsel. Okay, now he's back. So I give the floor to the co-prosecution to continue putting questions to the civil party.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Civil Party, you've talked to us about the locations where you worked in the Northwest Zone. Did your uncle Sai, who was the chief of the zone office, did he work at the same location as you or nearby you? Can you tell us whether you ever worked at the same office as your uncle Sai?
The zone office was located about 1 kilometer from Ta Dambong Kranyung. It was on National Road 5. My uncle worked at that office. He did not work at anywhere else.
And in your civil party application, in talking about your position as a messenger at the zone office, you state, quote, "I got this duty and position because my father had known Kusampan, Nuon Chea, Hu Nim, Hu Yun, and other leaders before the Khmer Rouge took over Cambodia." End of quote. Can you tell us if you know anything, any information? How is it that your father knew Nuon Chea, Kusampan, and other party leaders before the Khmer Rouge took power?
The reason that he knew them because he used to work and lived with them.
Do you know any details? Do you know where it was that your father used to work with Nuon Chea and Kusampan before 17 April 1975?
Please repeat your question because I did not get it.
Yeah, my question was, do you know where it was that your father worked with Nuon Chea and Kusampan and other party leaders before 17 April 1975?
No, Phnom Penh.
It was in Phnom Penh.
I want to turn to another subject that's addressed in your civil party papers, and that is the treatment of Buddhists. Can you tell the court what happened to the pagodas and monks in your home district in Battambang during the Khmer Rouge regime?
ខ្ញុំបានដឹងថា
I knew from a public meeting before the Liberation Day in April 1975. During the meeting, people were informed that when the regime came to power, they would allow only two classes that were the labor and the peasant class. For other classes were not allowed, including feudal, capitalist classes. So through that public general meeting, they emphasized that those classes would not be allowed.
Who was it that spoke at this meeting and talked about these issues?
I cannot recall the names of those people. What I can recall was what they said to us. They said that when DK regime came to power, they would not allow the three classes to continue. Those classes were feudal, capitalist, and proletariat classes. They would allow only two classes, the labor and peasant classes. So those were the points they talked about during the meeting.
Let me see if I can refresh your memory. In your supplementary information form you filed with your civil party application, this is document E3/6636A, E3/6636A, Khmer ERN 00579-467, English 00859-259. There's no French translation. You state, quote, during a meeting, the zone leader Khan announced that there were only two classes, the workers and the peasants, and that it was not necessary to practice any religious beliefs, end of quote. Is this the same meeting that you just described? Who was this zone leader Khan? You referred earlier today to a person who was on the zone committee with a NIM named Khan alias Ko. Is that the person who spoke at this meeting?
I knew Gon, who was the leader of the zone. It was not only Gon who said so. Various leaders at the local levels, they also emphasized those points during their regular local meetings.
And just so we're clear, this person, Khan, was this the same person you indicated was also known by another name, Q or Ko?
I did not know.
perhaps I misunderstood. Earlier today, you identified for your council 2 people who you believe served on the zone committee. One was Ru Nim. Who was the other person you identified who was also on the zone committee with Nim?
I knew that Kon, along with other members in the zone, worked with Ruhnyam.
Okay, we'll come back to him a little bit later. So you were present at a meeting where this announcement was made. Later on, what happened to the pagodas and monks in your home district in Battambang?
It happened everywhere. It did not happen in only Battambang province. It happened all over the country. Monks and pagoda were not allowed to continue.
And do you know whether any of the leaders from the center were involved or had issued any orders relating to the closing of pagodas in the country?
I did not know.
Let me get some clarification then on another statement, same pages from the Civil Party Supplementary Information Form that I just cited, E3 6636A, E3 6636A. And after describing this meeting that you've talked about, you go on to say the following, quote, later on in 1976, there was an order from Noon Chea to demolish pagodas in Mung Rusay for storehouses as needed. Please be informed that the Khmer Rouge had planned to get rid of religions and disrobe monks since before 1975. End of quote. Your statement in here indicates that there was an order from Noon Chea. Why did you say this? How did you know that Noon Chea issued an order relating to the destruction or demolition of pagodas?
I knew this because Kon met with Noon Chea often, and at that time, Kon was close to me, and he told me all about that.
And do you know where it was that Khan would meet with Noon Chea?
They met on different occasions and at different places. Sometimes he met him at Mong Rusay, sometimes at Battambang, and sometimes in Phnom Penh.
During the regime, did you know that Noon Chea was from Battambang?
បាទខ្ញុំដឹងថាគាត់នៅ7
I know he was from Ampel Prahong in Battambang province.
And do you remember how you knew or how you learned that Nunchea was from Ampil Prahong?
បាទខ្ញុំដឹងពីម្ដាយខ្ញុំ
I knew from my mother because my mother used to live with Nunchia. I myself was also living with Nunchia when I was young.
So you're talking here about the pre-75 period. Do you remember approximately what years it was that you and your mother lived at the same place as Nunchea?
If I'm not wrong, I lived in Phnom Penh between 1958 or 59 or 1960.
Okay, I'm going to come back to the meetings between Nunchea and Khan in a little bit. First, I want to ask you another general question about events after the Khmer Rouge took power. Do you know, after the Khmer Rouge took power on 17 April 1975, what happened to the Lon Nol officials and soldiers in Battambang, particularly those who held ranking positions?
I knew that at that time there were killing of officials of the former Lon Nol regime.
And how did you know about that?
I was aware of this through people whom I had interacted with. They told me about that incident.
And did your father or your uncle ever speak to you about what happened to the Lon Nol officials or soldiers after the Khmer Rouge took power?
No, I did not know from him.
Okay, in your testimony this morning, you've talked about the arrests of your father and uncle. I want to ask you about the arrests or purge before that time, before the arrest of your uncle and father. In your OCIJ interview, you discuss Northwest Zone cadres being removed from their positions and purged beginning in February or March 1977. So this would be about three months or 4 months before the arrest of your father and uncle. Can you tell us what you remember tell the court what you remember about this period in early 1977 when Northwest Zone cadres first were being removed from their positions and arrested.
បាទថ្ងៃនេះខ្ញុំ
Today I will tell you in details about what happened in 1977. To my knowledge, when they purged people in the zone, initially they purged people in the North Zone first. And after they had purged people there, they came to purge people in the Northwest Zone. They started to purge cadres at the lower level, and they put in place the cadres from the Southwest Zone. They put people from the Southwest Zone to get themselves familiar with the works of the people to be purged from the Northwest Zone. And during the purging period, they used the terms send those people to study. But those people who were sent to study disappeared and never returned. And the purging continues subsequently. Those who purged others were finally purged by other people, and that led to the collapse of the regime.
Okay, you talked about cadres being sent from the Southwest who were put in place in the Northwest Zone. How many cadres were sent from the Southwest Zone in 1977, and where did they stay when they arrived in Battambang?
The cadres who were sent from the Southwest Zone to the Northwest Zone stayed at the university, and those who stayed at the university compound were female cadres. For the male cadres, they were assigned to stay at Will by Chan. I prepared accommodation for them to stay.
Do you remember approximately how many cadres came from the Southwest Zone who had to have accommodations arranged for them?
I do not recall the total number of the people. However, what I know is that that group had so many people.
Let me see if I can refresh your memory. In your OCIJ interview, E3 9477, E3 9477 at answers 31 through 32, you said, you testified, quote, "We were the receivers of new cadres who had been sent in at the first phase of between 500 and 600 persons. including males, females, civilians, and soldiers, at around the end of 1976. And then you describe how your responsibility for providing food and accommodation to them at the university in Battambang. And then in question and answer 32, question, did you know what zone these new cadres were from? Answer, they were from the Southwest Zone, and the women were mostly from the salt farm unit, end of quote. Does that refresh your memory, Mr. Civil Party? Was it as many as 500 to 600 cadres who were sent from the Southwest Zone?
Yes, that is correct.
Now, do you know whether any of the party leaders from Phnom Penh, from the center, whether they were involved at the time these purges, these arrests of Northwest Zone cadres began in 1977?
No, I did not.
Let me read to you another excerpt from the same OCIJ interview, E39477. Before I read this, let me try another question. Before or around the time that this purge began of Northwest Zone cadres, were you aware whether either Pol Pot or Noon Chea came to Battambang and had meetings with the Northwest Zone leadership? And if so, can you tell us what you know about those meetings?
I only knew about it, although I did not know the content of the meeting.
Okay, I recognize it was a long time ago, Mr. Civil Party, so let me read what you stated in your OCIJ interview. Again, E39477, starting with answer 49. You testified to OCIJ, quote, I knew that each arrest had an order issued from the party center. Before each arrest, there was a meeting led by Pol Pot with Ru Nim, and there were other meetings led by Noon Chea with Khan alias Q. These meetings took place separately at either Nim's or Khan's house. And then at answers 51 to 52, a question, do you remember how many times Pol Pot and Noon Chea attended those meetings during that time? Answer, I remember that Noon Chea attended the meetings there 3 times, once in 1976 and twice in 1977. Pol Pot attended a meeting in 1976 when he traveled there by air. In addition, he attended another meeting in 1977. A question, how did you know that those meetings discussed the arrests of people? Answer, my older uncle Sai told me about that because he also attended those meetings. End of quote. Does that refresh your memory, Mr. Witness? Do you remember what it is that your Uncle Sai told you about the meetings that took place with Pol Pot and Noon Chea?
Nuon Chea came to chair meeting at the Banamong University, and I personally saw him there. He was in a white shirt and a black trousers. As for Pol Pot, through our radio communication, we learned that Pol Pot would come, but later on, they said that it was Son Sen, and Son Sen arrived at Bai Chan airfield. And I initially was informed that Pol Pot would arrive, as I just said, but then later on it was actually a Son Sen. So that is my mistake. In fact, it was a Son Sen and not a Pol Pot. As at the time I was informed by the military, that is by San.
And can you tell the court who San was? What was San's position in the Northwest Zone military?
Lok San
San was in charge of Division 2. And later on, when he came to work close to me, that is in Zone Office 560.
And in your OCIJ interview, you indicated that your uncle Sai, you were asked how you knew that these meetings talked about arrests of people, and your response was that your uncle Sai, the chief of the zone office, told you that because he attended those meetings. Do you still remember, Mr. Civil Party, what your uncle Sai told you in regards to what was discussed about arrests at those meetings?
Ban
I'd like to say that San told me about Pol Pot and Son Sen. Initially, as I said, Pol Pot would come, but San later on confirms that it was not Pol Pot but Son Sen. Regarding the meetings between Nuon Chea and Pol Pot, it was my uncle Sai who informed me about that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Civil Party. We've talked already about what happened to your father and your uncle in later on, and I've showed you the S-21 records documenting that they were arrested in late June 1977. How long after the arrest of your father and uncle, how long after that was it that you were arrested and sent to Phnom Penh?
In fact, I made a mistake earlier. It's about 3 or 4 months after their arrest. I was arrested and sent to Phnom Penh.
So if your father and uncle were arrested in June 1977, and you were arrested 3 or 4 months later, would that be approximately September or October 1977? that you were sent to Phnom Penh? Does that sound about right?
ត្រឹម
Yes, that is correct.
And what about other relatives of your father? Can you tell the court what happened to the other people in your family or other relatives on your father's side? What happened to them after his arrest?
Up to today, the relatives of my father, all of them died and none survived.
And were you told what happened to your father's side? Do you know whether any of them were also arrested and killed, like your uncle and father?
Regarding the relatives and the neighbors living in the village, I was told that they were persecuted and they were subject of arrest, and later on all of them were killed, and after the end of the war I have not seen any of them at all. None of them will survive.
Let's turn to the period where you were taken to Phnom Penh. You've described how you were brought to the Royal University, and you indicated you were there for, this morning you said you were there for a few months before you were brought to this 3-day meeting where Noon Chea spoke. What did you do during the period you were at the Royal University before you were sent to the meeting with Noon Chea?
I was at the Royal University. We were allowed to rest there. However, we had to write our biographies in relation to our information and the information of our relatives. Later on, we were sent to attend the meeting chaired by Noon Chea.
And when you were transported from Battambang to Phnom Penh, were other people also did other people also come along with you from Battambang to the Royal University? And if so, how many other people were brought from Battambang to Phnom Penh at that time?
From what I saw at the time, and if I am not mistaken, the total number of people, including the elders, the youths, and the children, all came up to hundreds.
And can you tell us who were these other people who were also brought from Battambang to Phnom Penh? Who were these other people?
Some of them were former soldiers. And whose relatives had been arrested. So they were sent in the same condition as I was sent.
Do I understand correctly that the other people that were sent from Battambang were also people like yourself whose relatives had been arrested? Is that right?
That is correct.
All right, let's talk about the meeting, the three-day meeting you attended at which Nuon Chea spoke. Was Nuon Chea the only person who spoke during those 3 days? And if not, who were the other people who spoke at the three-day meeting?
I did not know those people, and I only knew Nuon Chea. And Nuon Chea spoke about the stories, all the reasons why myself, along with others who were brought to Phnom Penh. He says that we were brought to Phnom Penh by the party in order to survive from those traitors at various zones, since those people at the zones were planning to persecute and to kill us. And my impression upon Nuon Chea's speech was the fact that he emphasized that we all were brought in order to survive from being killed by those traitors at those zones. And this is clearly what I can recall. Later on, myself, among those people, were sent in various groups. For example, the older people would be put in a separate group from the youths and the children.
Did you believe Nuon Chea when he claimed that your uncle was a traitor and that the leaders, he was trying to protect you from being killed by leaders of the Northwest Zone? Did you believe that?
No, I did not, because what he said and the real event were not consistent.
Just to try to be clear, did Nuon Chea speak on all 3 days of this meeting? Can you tell us how many days Nuon Chea spoke and how long he spoke to you and the other people who attended this meeting?
I cannot say that, because at the time I was shocked.
Do I understand? You don't remember how long Nuon Chea spoke? Can you give us any estimate of how long Nuon Chea spoke over the course of those 3 days? Do you have any recollection of that?
I cannot recall how long he spoke. I know that he came to speak during those few days.
In your description of this event in your civil party application, and this is, Your Honors, this is document E3/5000, Khmer ERN 00558-234, French 00807-151, English 00793-364. You state, quote, "In the workshop, Noon Chea had spoken about the guilt of those whom Ankar had taken to execute and told the participants that the murdered were traitors against the party," end of quote. Do you remember, Mr. Civil Party, did Noon Chea say at this meeting that these Northwest cadres accused of being traitors had been smashed or killed?
Ban.
I recall clearly that he said, especially Uncle Said and the zone cadres betrayed Angkar, and for that reason they were arrested, and that those cadres killed the party leader, namely Tu Samut, and that is what he said.
And do you remember whether he said because they were traitors that they had been smashed, these Northwest Zone people who had been arrested had been smashed? Did he use those words?
Indeed, that's what he said.
Do you remember?
Please hold on, and Councillor Coppert, you have the floor.
Maybe I should have risen a bit earlier, but I can still make the observation. It is my understanding from the witness's testimony that he used the word smash in the context of the people who were arrested, that they were the ones who smashed Tu Samut. So the follow-up question is, I think, not a fair question to the civil party. In addition to this, Tu Samut was killed in 1962, I say by heart, or 1960. So it's not justified to only pick on the word smash and to put in the mouth of the witness that the people, including his uncle, who were arrested, were smashed, that Noon Chea used these words.
I was asking the civil party for clarification about a statement in his civil party application, which I just read, in which he states that Noon Chea spoke about the guilt of those whom Ankar had taken to execute and told the participants that the murdered were traitors against the party. He also talks separately about the reason that his Uncle Sai was arrested in relation to the killing of Tu Samut. But let me just ask again so that we're clear. When Noon Chea talked about these alleged traitors from the Northwest Zone, including your uncle, did he say that they had been killed because of their alleged activities?
Please repeat your question.
Yes, when Noon Chea talked about these people accused of being traitors in the Northwest Zone, including your uncle, did he say that your uncle and the others from the Northwest Zone had been executed, smashed, or killed?
He did not say that. He did not say anything about other people except Sai. As for Sai, Noon Chea accused him that during the 1950s or 60s, Sai was a messenger of Tu Samut, and Sai was a traitor infiltrated inside the revolution, and he passed on information to other people to kill Tu Samut, who was the Communist Party leader. And Tu Samut was not killed during the reign of Democratic Cambodia.
And did Noon Chea say what had happened to your uncle Sai as a result of his alleged involvement in these activities?
I did not hear any additional information besides what I said.
Did Noon Chea, he talked about, you've indicated he talked about people in the Northwest Zone who were accused of being traitors. Did he speak of any party leaders from other regions, from the North Zone or from other parts of the country, who were also accused of being traitors? Do you remember whether he spoke about people from regions in addition to the Northwest Zone?
Noon Chea did not speak about leaders of other zones.
When he spoke about these accusations against your uncle Sai, did he talk about confessions from your uncle or from other people of the Northwest Zone?
No, he did not.
How many other people were present with you at this meeting where Noon Chea talked about the alleged traitors from the Northwest Zone?
There were hundreds of people.
And do you know what happened to the other people at this meeting? Do you know what happened to them after the meeting was over?
After several days after the meeting concluded, some of the participants disappeared while others survived.
And how did you know that some of these people disappeared? Can you tell the court how it is that you knew that some of these people disappeared?
I knew it because I was there. I was living there.
And so what happened? Did you see these people being taken away? Did you hear that they had been taken away? Can you just tell us a little bit how how you knew that they had disappeared.
Yes, I object to this question. This is an old objection to the word, to the use of the word disappear. Disappear is a neutral word in itself. It can mean anything. People could have been transferred, could have been put in other positions. So automatically assuming that disappearing means arresting and then subsequently being killed is not correct. So I object.
Well, let me finish. Let me be more specific then. Let me finish by asking you about a statement in your civil party application, E3 5000, Khmer 00558 234, English 00793 364, French 0080751. This is what you said in your civil party application. After 3 days of the workshop session, the Khmer Rouge sent those workshop participants and me back to work, which we labored night and day. My workplace was named Unit 870, subordinate to the central level of the upper echelon. And then you say, quote, those who were active could survive, but those who were not so would be taken to be executed. Specifically, Mr. Civil Party, why is it that you said in your civil party application that some of the people had been taken to be executed? Why did you believe that some of these people had been killed?
There was a saying at the time that it's no use to keep those inactive people. And what happened was very much the reflection of that saying. For those who were inactive in their labor, or they could not achieve the work quota, or those who were sick a lot, for example, 5 or 6 times per month, they said that those people were inactive so that the party plan could not be achieved. And later or sooner, the people would be taken away from where I lived and disappeared. And I did not know what happened to them, whether they were killed or not. I only knew that they were removed from my unit.
Thank you very much for your time this morning. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. It is now appropriate for our lunch break. The chamber will take a break now and resume at 1:30 this afternoon. As we scheduled for the afternoon sessions, we will hear testimony of a witness to TCW 842 via a video link from France. And it is still unclear regarding the proceedings this afternoon to hear the witness or the reserve witness. And the reserve witness seems to have some health issues. So, for that reason, the chamber will reserve the civil party for the afternoon sessions. In fact, in principle, he should be heard for tomorrow's sessions. However, due to the uncertainty of the witness this afternoon, we will keep him here, and in case there's the proceedings to hear testimony of a witness via video link from France cannot be done, and then the reserve witness also cannot be heard, then we will continue with the testimony of this civil party. court officer, please, during the lunch break, make a necessary arrangement for this civil party and to please hear the further instruction from the chamber whether he should be heard this afternoon or he should be sent to his accommodation. Security personnel just ready to take you some port to the waiting room downstairs and have him returned to attend the proceedings this afternoon before 1:30. The court is in recess.